Would be useful if I actually had the microphone unmuted and close to me. Uh, Welcome back to another episode of my continuing efforts to stream once every couple of days. Uh, Thank you very much. This is Scarcely Relevant. I am Scarcely Relevant, and this is my continuing efforts to just try these things out. So I am bringing this up, just needing to check whether we can actually hear the game audio. Just try these things out. And it seems the game audio is not coming through, so that is a fun little addition here. Let's see if we can get this happening. Use custom audio device. Yeah, let's try that device. And let us transition to this. And there we go. Excellent. It seems to now be there. And I've just got to quickly check and make sure that everything is muted. It is muted. Fantastic. All right, so one last quick check of. It seems to now be there, and I've just got to quickly check and make sure. Yeah, look at that. It's only just slightly falling apart on me. in my continuing efforts to still not have everything catch on fire, except for the day that Turtles can testify to this. Everything did fall apart, and it was because I started streaming and the power went out. It seriously went out in just one quick hit, and it was a few minutes in, bang, power's gone. So that was lovely. Hopefully we're not going to have that tonight, although I do have to keep me company the classic can of mother, which would normally be ice cold. However, in a fun turn of events, I don't know why, but a little bar fridge down here just decided to not work at all. Just keeps shutting off. I don't know what the hell's going on with it, but now I've got warm cans of energy drink to keep me company. So, fun. But that is a first world problem. But what we will start with, you can probably hear in the background we have some wild frost, which I have managed to have some success. I have managed to finish a run in both Slay the Spire and Wild Frost. So in my continuing efforts to try and get better at games, I have, and it's wonderful. So with that, we might play a bit more tonight, but before we get into that, it will probably be that we will start and have a look at some of the news that's been going around. So we're just going to kill those, and now it should just be my lovely sultry voice. So well, my not so sultry voice, but we're going to start with a little bit of news. So I'll swap over to here, and hopefully, if everything is still working well, I will have a browser capture, and well, actually no, I don't really need to bring up the browser. What I can do is just bring up the news and kind of throw it over the screen here, and we can just talk our way through it, and I can capture the bits and pieces as we go. Because why not? Doing everything on the fly is just one of the smartest things out there. So in the description, the developer underscore direct by Xbox was announced today, and in a very lovely turn of events, Jez Corden of Windows Central and also the Xbox 2 podcast, he had actually kind of indicated and hinted in that direction that that there was potentially this coming up, considering that a lot of the news had been very very dismissive, very kind of anti-Xbox, I suppose. I kind of see that as a bit of a muchness, really. So with a lot of that news and those bits and pieces, having this announced was actually fantastic to see. But it was very interesting to see what was being discussed. So we'll pull up the Xbox Wire news feed and actually look at the specific here we go, the developer direct. So now let's see if I can actually make this happen without something falling over. Oh, I might just be able to. Yes. And we're going to throw it over here and just boost it up a little bit. And boom! It works. It works. I'm capable of doing things. This is great. Okay, so the developer direct returns on January 23rd, a celebration of what's coming for Xbox players. Now, for those who aren't aware, like, the developer direct has been a Xbox effort to, instead of have a E3 style presentation, or what you would consider like the press conference, Gamescom, Game Awards style, where it is show a trailer and go, it's coming at this point. It's instead giving a developer a good 15, 20 minutes, potentially even longer, to really level set and tell people what their game is about when it's at a position or a point where they're able to really get in there. It's kind of like a confidence point, which I think is great to do for how over the last 10 years, like, E3 got seen more as an event where you would show off games, but not be certain that they're really in the best position. It would just be a polish and present for that specific time. Now E3s are almost going back to an original basis that Cliffy B actually talked about it in his book, and through a lot of the conversations and podcasts that he's done, which I think is a really great point to return to. E3 used to be, you lock down a point of a game to be able to go, this is how it is, this is how it plays, these are the things we're doing, and we are aiming for this date. And it would be your promise as a developer, as a publisher, as a combination studio effort to the gamers to go, this is how confident we are, this is what we're showing, bang, here it is, you've seen it. People would be able to play that at the event, and journalists would then be able to kind of kick along and go, okay, these people know what they're doing, they know what they're capable of. And it would allow a little bit of confidence to kind of return to how some people would actually view games. And that's a tough thing, because for confidence in games, that can be a very scary thing. I suppose to a degree that kind of falls to the wayside when it comes to the artists make art, and the customer, the consumer of art, is to stand there and consume the art and say whether they like it or whether they don't like it and why. Now, from there, it is not to then influence how the artist then next does their art. It is about saying that the did the artist get the intended effect for their art? Was it consumed by people? Yes. Did people like it? Yes. Did people not like it? Yes. And then balancing where that matters. That's the back and forth. If you are looking to make something for more customers to engage with, then yes, you can chase them. But you are going to be falling down a rabbit hole. But coming back to where I really like the Developer Direct is that for all of the previous years, the first Developer Direct back in 2023 was basically the pilot version of it, and we got Hi-Fi Rush out of it, which I absolutely fucking adored. I actually have you can look it up online, the music, everything about it, it just absolutely pops. It was my gaming moment of that year. Like, that sequence just put a smile on my face that did not leave the entire point of that sequence. Playing through it once, as soon as I finished the game, I went back to that sequence and played it again because it was just... Okay, so here's a reference point for any Gen Alpha, Gen Z people. You might not know the reference. Maybe you do. If you don't, go watch this movie, The Matrix. Now, The Matrix has some really great moments that have a really amazing song playing that gives you a sense of a tempo, and it drives that moment. The visuals aren't the key thing. It's almost the visuals are kind of this heartbeat of a visual pumping, of movement occurring to the music in the background, which is setting that rhythm. And when you look at the lobby sequence, that is one of those perfect examples where the music is almost it's driving everything while the sound of gunfire and pandemonium is occurring around it. But that visual beat is driven by the audio in the background. And that Invaders Must Die sequence is that for me in a video game. It is just fantastic. So for Developer Direct, it has a incredibly high bar that it has already reached once before with Hi-Fi Rush. That was incredible. And then last year, the thing that nobody was expecting and was kind of like really just, we were expecting a lot less than what we got, which was last year, Visions of Mana was announced, shown on Xbox, shown gameplay, told the game's coming out for Xbox and it will be out soon and it's coming to the console. We're not skipping you. But then being shown Indiana Jones with a level of polish and care to it and being told it is releasing this year. Everyone was expecting that Indiana Jones was still maybe another year or two away, and it's come out. It's gotten fantastic scores. Like, even the people who don't like it have kind of looked at how the rest of the media have basically seen the game and gone, holy shit, maybe we're outliers. Maybe it isn't just us. Sorry, I'm just going to adjust that. Book. Because I want to be able to get some of the pretty lights that are behind me. You know, they're the only pretty thing currently in frame. So Developer Direct has a fantastic pedigree so far. It has, I think, possibly, while I love a good state of play from PlayStation, when they've done a really great one or a showcase, I've always gone, it's fantastic. They're showing interesting things. It's really cool. It may not be for me, but I always appreciate what they do. They're fantastic. But Developer Direct, I think, has beaten out the state of plays, the Nintendo Treehouses, to give a really what's really needed in gaming, which is to be able to show the developers, show the work that they're doing, let them talk about their game. And that's one thing. We have so many now. Here's a point where I will happily say, "Oh wow, I am massively blown out over there." Sorry, I am just going to adjust this. It seems like the cameras are just blowing me out to absolute buggery. Oh, I did not realize that the cameras would do that to me. Absolutely. Oh my god, saturation levels. Sorry, I'm gonna switch off the face cam for a moment, and I'll bring it once it has hopefully reset itself. So let's have a look. And it's now, I'm watching it on the stream. Oh, wow. YouTube really doesn't like this. It really doesn't like it at all. What have I done to you, YouTube? Why do you hate me so much? Oh, well, for anybody watching on YouTube, I currently have a very colorful look to me, and I have no idea how to resolve that. So, enjoy my weird, colorful look that I have. Okay, so the games shown this year, I think, are actually one of the more interesting things to talk about. South of Midnight, which a lot of people are saying is potentially a very early game for 2025. I would love to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And it's also one of the more unique titles that has been in development, and while shown at the Xbox showcase last year, we weren't expecting to see a gameplay sequence of it. It was another game that's similar to Indiana Jones last year, was shown with a lot of people going, "Oh, it's probably not going to be ready for another year or two." Blows everybody away and goes, "Oh wow, this is happening now. Fantastic." So South of Midnight, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which is the game that my wife saw the trailer for and was like, "Holy shit, this looks cool." That was the game that really got her attention. And I will admit, hearing Ben Starr's voice in it, if you know, Ben Starr, the lead actor, voiced Clive in the Final Fantasy 16 game, also is just doing incredible work out there, and one of the most funny and well engaged voice actors out there. Somebody who really has a passion for not only his craft, but for what his craft services, which is the games industry and content out there. He talks. It's really great to see that. And Doom: The Dark Ages. Now, Doom: The Dark Ages has been said to be 2025. So we've got 3 games that we know and have already been announced as coming out in 2025. But in this little point, I'm just going to highlight it here. And a surprise visit to a location to see another studio's brand new game. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to pull something up here. I'm hopefully not speaking out of turn. I'm just going to double check before, because whenever Jez says something and I repeat it, I also want to make sure that, okay, he did put this onto Twitter. which is very nice of him. I appreciate that, Jez. Um, but for what he's got here on Twitter is this Xbox developer underscore direct might be a lot bigger than Microsoft is letting on. And a lot of people have now started asking the questions. Do you believe the Oblivion remake will be there, Jez? That's all I want to know. It's my favorite game of all time. I don't think Oblivion is there, but could be wrong. I don't know if that's a good thing anymore. It's good. One thing I will say for Jez is that generally his indications and teasers are dick on. And the reason I follow him and have been watching everything for Xbox 2 over all of these years is because not just only of his track record, but the fact that he has intentionally held things back because he's known of what's coming down the pipeline. You want some people to just get a surprise and to be pleasantly surprised by, oh my God, this thing, I had no idea. And Jez will go, nah, I knew about it but didn't say anything. How many journalists out there with a scoop to something of that degree are going to just throw it out there as soon as they can? Like, even to this day, I kind of laugh at the fact that for a lot of people, they go, Jason Schreier broke the news of the ABK acquisition. Jason Schreier also works for Bloomberg News, which means that they would have gotten that news as soon as the press release hit. Bloomberg have the direct line to the stock market. So as those things occur, it is him going, holy shit, I need to get right on this. And that's fair call. Like, that's his job. And absolutely, I'm not going to deny him his job. But for so many things, there are journalists who will... So here's a not so secret about the world of journalism. Some things occur, such as... I don't think it's out of turn for me to say this. If it is, and you know that I'm speaking out of turn, by all means, hit me up on here. Send me a message. Hit me up on Discord. Doesn't matter. The Bethesda acquisition. Now, Bethesda was not a public company, so it was not a stock price purchase. There was shareholders and directors of the board and everything else, but Bethesda was not on the stock market. The purchase of Bethesda by Microsoft going into the stock, for Microsoft's stock price, would then affect Microsoft's stock price. People may go, oh my God, this additional amount of money or this investment, maybe it then ends up grabbing attention and making people go, oh, this then places more value into Xbox. So maybe the Microsoft ticker goes up a little bit, but investors don't really care about gaming, or they don't yet. So when things like that happen, there was press announcements and there would have been information included and sent out to media outlets ahead of time, maybe an hour or two. I don't know any... hold on. I might investigate... I might ask a friend while I'm doing this. So I will just switch off that window capture so that nothing can be captured. But there is... just having to look through some messages, because I remember somebody saying... No, that's with some information that I cannot talk about. Cannot really be referenced, so I will not. But there are some points where certain news will hit the wire, as they say, and with that news hitting the wire, it will happen an hour or two before the embargo drops. So journalists will have time to write up articles and go, you know, this company has purchased that company, and the company that they've purchased is responsible for these things and those things, and they've said that they will do this and they will do that. It lets them write them all up, get it into their system, have it ready to hit at the embargo point to then propagate through social media, and then means that as the official press release hits and as the stock market is made aware, as the news is hitting, then it goes everywhere. It's like a media blast. Things like Bethesda, at least to my knowledge, I cannot say for certain, but generally those sorts of things happen out there. Jez has been fantastic when it comes to hitting those points, and also for everybody's comments about his track record. I put his track record against so many others, and he's still on top. Primarily because people will take what they're interpreting from what he's saying, and that is the point that they will look at and go, he said this. You can get some things wrong. Even the best sources will occasionally not get something right, because what they've heard and what they've told you and your interpretation of it can be very different things. So, you know, that's the way it is. But if Jez's tweet, this Xbox Developer Direct might be a lot bigger than Microsoft is letting on, consider a visit to a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game. Now, here's a key thing. We've got Compulsion Games with South of Midnight, and that is an Xbox first-party studio. We've got Claire Obscure, which is Sandfall Interactive in France. France? Yes. Montpellier, France. So that is a third-party studio. They are not owned by Microsoft. They are their own independent studio. They have a Game Pass deal. So it's kind of mutually beneficial. Same as at the last Developer Direct, you had Visions of Mana being made by, I believe Visions of Mana is Square Enix, but was being made by an external developer using the Visions of Mana, or the Mana license and everything else, and directors and people involved. Then you have Doom the Dark Ages, so id Software, and it is id, not ID. It is id, the idea of the id, the mind. Id, not ID. But I will admit, I used to call them ID Software for years and years because I'd never heard the word id actually spoken. It's a fun little thing. I am slightly dyslexic, and I do have issues with that. Very rarely, though, however, there is one thing that I think very few people will will understand, but could potentially get, which is I read a lot, and I used to read books upon books upon books. So a lot of the words that I know their meaning, I know their context, I know what all of these things mean and do. However, I've never heard them spoken. So embarrassing story. Sometime just after I met my wife, Beck, and we were talking about, I cannot remember the topic, but I said the word, it is the word masochistic. Now, masochistic is spelt macho sadistic, but it is pronounced masochistic. I said the word, I knew what the word meant, but I said macho sadistic, and Beck has stopped and just looked at me and gone, what? Wait, what word? are you thinking? And I described the word and went, this, like this word implying these things. And she was like, it's masochistic. How can you not know how to pronounce that word? And it was explaining, you going, I've never heard the word said, or it's never correlated to that. Weird thing, but you know, one of those embarrassing things of life. So id also being a first party Xbox Studios studio. So Doom, South of Midnight, and Clair Obscura. Nothing about this is out of place when you consider previous developer directs, because we've had previous developer directs where they've shown first party games that are expected and being developed, coming together, and games from third parties. The surprise location to see another studio's brand new game. Now, this is where it potentially gets thrown for a 6, because you need to then break down and go, what studios could have a brand new game that we don't know about, that we have not seen? A surprise location as well is a very interesting point, because there's a few locations that you wouldn't expect. So we have, actually something has just come to mind thinking about it. Thinking on a surprise location would be Japan. And another studio's brand new game, Forza Horizon 6, which has been rumored for the last 2 or 3 Forza games to be the first Forza game in Japan, because everybody goes, what better location for the next Forza Horizon game than Japan? The cherry blossoms, the winding Tokyo streets, and also then bringing one of your biggest IPs and your biggest franchises into the location where you are looking to make headway. Like, it has been interesting over the last year with the PlayStation price rises that occurred mid to late last year, that people were trending on Twitter and on social media platforms saying, I can't afford the extra 30, 40,000 yen that they want for these consoles. So I know that Monster Hunter Wilds is coming. I'm just going to get it on there. And that is a very strange thing to see, but it could also kind of work with the idea of just reaching out to more of the audience that's out there. Also, when a game has a home field advantage to a degree, sometimes that can really work in your favor. So in a surprising turn of events, I might have thought, okay, yeah, maybe it is a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game. I do think that it would make sense to me of it being Forza Horizon 6. And actually, I'm gonna. I'm just throwing. I've now just thrown that into the chum bucket of a Discord channel I'm a part of. Xbox 2 Discord. Go there, support the guys. They're great. So it will be very interesting to see how all of that comes together. Now, what else it could potentially be? I have a few ideas, but I wouldn't know if if much of it is really how we would expect. Because consider it all. If it's a brand new studio, then it's how can we know? All it is we know it's another studio, so it's not Compulsion, it's not Sandfall, and it's not id. And we're seeing their brand new game in a place that we wouldn't expect. Now, a brand new game implies we have never seen it before. So take off Fable, take off, well, hell, take off State of Decay, take off Perfect Dark. Oh, hey, Turtles, thank you very much. I appreciate. Thank you. We'll listen later. Hopefully my waffling isn't too much for you. And it would be useful if I did spell thank correctly. With taking all of those out of the kind of layout, all of the games that were previously announced that Xbox have put out there, if it's something brand new, you then have to go, well, what studios haven't we heard of or haven't we heard from? You then need to kind of look at the studios from top to bottom. Now, we know that Arcane is working on Blade. We haven't seen the game, but we've heard apparently that that it is, they have started work, and the last, I believe, yes, Deathloop was released in 2021 no, 2022. I think it was originally meant for 21 and it came out 22 for the PlayStation 5. Let's quickly look it up. Deathloop PS5. And there's the official PlayStation page. We don't really need that. Where is Wikipedia? There we go. September of 2021. Okay, so 2021 was the PlayStation 5 and Windows release, and then September of 2022 was the Xbox Series X and S release. Now, 2022 to 2023 was when Blade was announced at the Game Awards, and then we've had the Game Awards just go. And that has now come and gone. So they've been working on Blade for about a year. I know that Arcane are a fantastic and very, very capable studio where they really lock in and they build towards what they know, what they want. They also know the style of game that they are fantastic at, which is the immersive sims. So I would imagine that if this is a third-person action-adventure game, as Dinga Bakaba has said, that is the style of game that they're going for, it might take a little bit of time, but given a year, you could polish up something pretty amazing in that time, especially if you know what you're doing. And Arcane Lyon and Arcane Austin, as sad as it is to see them have going as they did, were able to lock in, and they knew what they were great at creating, and they knew how to really push those boundaries. But they also had they spent their time well. So Blade potentially, but for a lot of other groups, Arcane does come to mind, but you then have to consider that you've got, we have seen Fable, we have seen Perfect Dark, we have seen State of Decay. We haven't seen anything from the Coalition, like away from the 2024 Xbox showcase. We saw Gears of War E-Day. there is the potential that, you know, the coalition could rock up and go, here's gameplay, and here's what we're thinking. But at the same time, it could be another side project. There are so many other studios inside of Xbox Game Studios that it could be Ninja Theory with Project Mara. It because we've seen it was announced as part of kind of the three projects that Ninja Theory were working on, which was Hellblade 2, Project Mara, and the oh, I feel bad for not knowing it. I believe it's the Insight project. Ninja Theory games. Ninja Theory. All right, because yeah, they were working on a few different points. Let's see, dependent. Okay, yep, they announced that Project Mara. Project Insight, I believe is, yeah, it was the additional element of what they did for their work with Professor Paul Richardson, I think. Could be getting that wrong, so if anybody is in chat and they know the people's names or the project that I'm thinking of, feel free to drop it in. Those projects and those things could actually be something that they're ready to show, that maybe there is something more to it. The Project Mara was originally meant to be a kind of very self-contained horror. It was meant to be to help people understand the elements of psychosis, specifically the horror of psychosis. And that could be something that they are ready to kind of kick with. So there's that. The one thing I'm hoping for, though, is that we get to see what Double Fine is working on. Because let's be honest, Psychonauts 2 was a fantastic sequel and an incredibly well-polished game. For all of the time, especially even through the long periods of time that they had working on it, when it was a FIG project and they originally backed it, then when Microsoft came on board, the time that they were given to just polish and iterate made a fantastic game. And since then, they've just gone quiet and they've been doing their work, which is great to see. But I do wonder what is it that they're going to do? Is it going to be like previous Double Fine work, where they'll have maybe a half dozen games that they've really polished up and gone, you know what, for the next 6 months of Game Pass, we're dropping a game every month, these smaller bite-sized little fun experiences. That would be amazing to see. And I think Double Fine is the sort of studio that has the pedigree of talent and capacity to be able to really iterate and make those things work. But if I have to be honest, a surprise location to see another studio's brand new game, I'm thinking that we might see what ZeniMax Online Studios is going to be working on. Because I believe it was back in 2018, ZeniMax Online had stated, or Matt Firor, the studio head, had started working on a new IP, or a IP. There were rumors out there, especially after the Microsoft acquisition, that ZeniMax Online Studios, during his little studio speech, he specifically made the statement that they're working on a brand new thing that they'll be ready to show when it's ready. So he specifically stated there that ZeniMax Online Studios is working on something new while doing all of their work for The Elder Scrolls Online, which is still continuing on in a great way. And they've recently announced that instead of the larger once-a-year DLC points, they're going to do smaller chapters with more more of the features and elements placed in kind of cycles through to be able to keep the kind of engagement and keep the fixes coming in for the audience, which I think is a great way, especially in how people need to think about games as a service, is that if you're waiting on that particular roll through of content and it's every year that you get the major updates or the fixes or the things that have needed that work, why not change your system to be able to deliver these things quicker? It can very much mean the difference between having 40, 50,000 people logging in per day to having that drop down to 20, 25, or maybe 30,000. If you're fixing problems that are causing people to go, I'm going to go back to WoW, or I'm going to jump into Final Fantasy 14. If you're actively working on what the people are saying are issues or are fixes or need balance or need changes or progressing story so that they can engage more with the world and more with what it is that they're enjoying about the game, that's a fantastic thing. That's a good way to do it. But with ZeniMax Online Studios, they've also done an incredible amount of work on a lot of other Bethesda titles. They helped out on Redfall. They helped out on Starfields. They've helped out on Fallout 76. They've helped out on Doom and Doom Eternal. They have a fantastic capacity to be able to help and build out to other studios and help them achieve what they're great at. It's the same as Todd Vaughn of Bethesda, their biz dev. He spoke about how when Machine Games were acquired, even before they started working on Wolfenstein, they were purchased and were working on content for Skyrim to help Bethesda Game Studios. So with a lot of these things, ZeniMax Online Studios has been possibly the most quiet of nearly all of the studios that have been acquired. And that is a powerhouse studio that has assisted so many other studios with what they're doing whilst continuing to cycle through its own content and its own game, that I would be very interested to see what they would do, especially given the sorts of server capacity that they have. One of the biggest issues that The Elder Scrolls Online ever had was its launch. It wasn't that the game was bad per se. It was that mega server structure that they developed and initially worked on wasn't capable of doing the heavy lifting, and meant that like trying to play it and pick up an item that would lag out and appear 50 feet away that you'd have to go and chase down because you couldn't see the people who were around you in different shards who were picking up that item, and it was disappearing from your location and then having to respawn on the server. But then by the time you'd walk over to it, somebody else would pick it up, so it would move again. And it would just be this hopping little frog of a bundle of herbs that's moving around the fucking place, and you're like, God damn it, I just want to finish this fucking quest. For anybody at ZeniMax Online Studios, no critique. The game was great. It was just a very buggy launch, but you know what? It got there. Like EOS, I'm not a big MMO player anymore, but props to it. So when it comes down to it, I think another studio's brand new game. I think we're seeing ZeniMax Online Studios and what they're delivering. A key thing being, I honestly have no idea. I have no idea what it could be or who it could be. I'm just spitballing, and it would be very interesting. especially given that it's going to be a week from now, or just over a week, 2 weeks from now. Let's see. Yeah, two weeks from now. A very interesting thing that also comes to it is that now we have an idea of there's 2 weeks before an Xbox announcement. There's potentially going to be a Nintendo announcement soon for the Switch 2, whenever that may be. You know, let's just wait and find out. And I'm still wondering what Sony is doing. I'm hoping that they have something coming up that they're going to announce and talk about, because I'd like to know what to expect from them. If it's going to be more content for games like Astrobot, or that we're going to see more of Ghosts of Yotai, or get a date, or any of these things, that's fantastic. I want to know what's happening. But for a lot of the let's be honest, for a lot of the last year or two, it has been less of what's coming out from Sony and more third-party deals and big titles. That's fine, but I'd just like to know what's coming out, because it's nice to have an idea. The moment that we're trying to get down to these smaller and smaller windows for a game is announced and a game is in your hands, while I agree with Todd Howard that nobody ever says, I would like to wait, but there is one side to it, which is if you don't have to wait, then you can't be expected to dish out big bucks at the drop of a hat. So for Game Pass, that works well. But if you're paying $70, or here in Australia, $125 a hit, I'd like to know at least maybe a couple of months before something's going to land in my lap, so that if I need to put aside some dollars for that, I can, and not have it be, ooh, can I get to work and back throughout the next 2 weeks on $40 of fuel instead of 60? You know, I can't stop off anywhere. I can't do anything. I just have to go work home. And I can save myself $20 there. And I do that over the next couple of weeks, I can grab that game. That shouldn't be how we're doing these things. But it's something I consider, because for a lot of the time, when you haven't had money, that's how you think. No matter how well you may do in life and how you might be in a good position in life, you will always think that way. And it's a very hard habit to break. Actually, it's probably one of the best habits to not break. I think it's always good to just keep with those things. They keep you honest. But, oh God, energy drink as... It's a really crass thing to say, but I fucked corpses colder than that. But that's the kind of news I've probably just, for anybody who's like, oh, this has actually been a really interesting breakdown and thoughts. And then I've just said that and it's just killed it. So in terms of the news, that's the really interesting thing that's come out. The developer direct has now very much taken a front and center approach for what we're seeing. And yeah, we'll kind of leave that as it is. I'm happy with seeing that, like, we're actually getting back into the news and the interesting things that will now happen. Especially, we will soon now know what's going to be out there. What can we look forward to? And you know, I just want to play some games. Like, I'm really looking forward to Avowed. I love me a good solid RPG. Actually, on that, the RPG idea. So I was talking to Beck, my lovely wife, last night about I've started playing. Oh God, I keep forgetting the fucking name of the game. I'm going to look it up here on the console while I'm doing this. I know it starts with an L. Um, do, 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 do. Um, I believe it is. Greatest game. I'm really thrown by the fact that I keep forgetting the name of this game, and I just bought it and have really been enjoying it. But it just has one of those names that falls right outside my head. As soon as I forget, or as soon as I stop playing it, it just falls out of my head and it can no longer be found. It is. Oh my god, I'm honestly embarrassed. Generally, I'm pretty good with video game names. I have a well, I used to have a steel trap mind for things like that, but it seems no longer. And I can't even see it in the list. I purchased it, and it's just not there. So I was playing this game, and it has a very good, very well art. Disciples Liberation. Okay, so Disciples Liberation. Bought it in the sale, the Xbox End of Year sale, and it's a CRPG turn-based game. Very much, for those who would remember it, think Heroes of Might and Magic. So building up a base, creating units inside an actual base structure where you build up, you have particular groups that you're able to pull skills and units from, and they're the frontliners that you can then place onto the board and use and kind of like hex structure, turn-based combat. It's really good, but it in an interesting turn, it actually had a element about the game itself, which was here's some icons beside all of the chat dialogues that you are going to see going on in the rest of the game. Here's what all of them mean, and one was obviously swords cross, saying this is a aggressive, this is an attack option. This is more a kind option. This is a barter for option. This is a but they had an option there which was, this is an option that if you choose it will role play the protagonist in the way that we have written them. Now the protagonist is female, and she's basically the soon to be fated leader between these 2 points, or between these two groups. And having that as an option, I was then saying to Beck, like, it's interesting that some games are starting to do this, where to have a lore accurate way of playing through the game, that instead of going play it your way, and there are no right or wrong decisions, but instead go, you know what, I want to punt this decision. Like, what would this character do? Because it can then help you kind of guide it and see what the developers were intending for the experience, or intending for that character's story and progression, their passage in the game. So with that, it's we were talking about that, and I was saying that a lot of the reviews and discussions on Avowed were of the same kind of thoughts, which is also another reason I'm excited. But Beck actually brought up a really good point. She went, I wish there was a I don't fucking care option. And she just described it in this way of, the kind of quests and dialogues where it's a side quest where it's like, oh, I need you to go get my sheep from that goblin cave, and I need those sheep back because, and there should just be an option where your character just goes, I don't care. Just tell me where to go, what to get, and let me bring it back here. You give me the money, and then I'm going to fuck off. I do not need to know why this sheep is important to you. I do not need to know that this generation of sheep have been in your family line for, umpteen years. You don't need to know that. And sometimes RPGs, and Beckett actually brought it up, it is something that she's right about when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3. How some of the characters, how some of the storylines and quests and bits and pieces, they will expound in a very verbose fashion at length about why you need to do this thing for them. When sometimes there should just be the option going, I'm a fucking mercenary, I don't care. And apathy is a decision that you can very rarely make for a character when it comes to an RPG. You cannot, there are very rarely, or very, very rarely, an option to be able to just go, I don't fucking care. Just shut the fuck up, or just a button to like walk up and slice their throat and walk away. Like it seems like a very much against the grain option when it comes to an RPG. But when you think about it, it is one of the key things that most people will ask about an RPG when it is announced, when it's a open world, you can do anything. Like you think about one of the biggest or the first really big attempts since the Fallout and Baldur's Gate games to do you can just wipe out everyone. Morrowind. You can soft lock or completely hard lock the game by killing Lord Vivek. If you are buff enough and able to, you can kill Lord Vivek, which then means you get Wraithguard, the wrist guard, but it hasn't been activated. It has fallen out of power because Lord Vivek is dead, which then means you cannot wear the Wraithguard to be able to use Keening and Sunder, the weapons that are needed to kill Dagon So at that point, you can, if you hit Lord Vivek, the game will go, if you do this, there is no coming back, and you could fuck your game. And it says yes, and it allows you to do it. If you then kill Lord Vivek, if you're a smartass and you bought the guidebook like me and then did that, you can then look and you can find the last of the Dwemer, and he will activate Wraithguard for you so that you can still finish the game. But ever since those sorts of elements started coming in, people have then started asking the questions of, can you kill everyone in the game? And it was actually something that was brought up with the Outer Worlds when Tim Kaine and Leonard Boyarsky were announced as the directors, and when people started asking, what is this game? What can you do? What can't you do? One of the biggest things that they were both asked as the co-directors for the game was, because they are credited as two of the 8 people who came up with Fallout, and Tim Kaine being the game director and Leonard Boyarsky being the art director for the game, for the original Fallout, and also with their pedigree of RPGs that they did, like Arcanum and Temple of Elemental Evil and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline, still the best fucking vampire game out there. Bugs and all, don't care. Still fucking amazing. So, when they were working on the Outer Worlds, they specifically made the game so that you can go through and kill everyone. That's what people do. Now, the one thing being is that you can go through and you can kill everyone and the game will progress. But there should always be an option that allows you as a player to disengage with the world and just go, I don't fucking care about your problems. I just want to get this shit done and go on with it. There are some people out there who are working in the most amazing fields out there, but they don't care about what you're doing. Their job is to serve you. You are a customer. Like it, there are some days that you will go to a KFC or a fast food place or, you know, a grocery store or a clothing store or wherever. And the person that's normally very cheery is just has the look of, I'm being paid to be here. I just want to go home. I don't care. And we've all had that moment. Like at that point, the last thing that you want is for somebody to start telling you why you should be helping them and how this thing has been in their family for generations, or that without this, the rich and the rich tapestry of history around this village would fall apart and the kids need to learn. No, I don't care. There should just be a button that is like, don't care, shut the fuck up. But Beck being the amazingly smart and funnier of any of us in our house, like Beck is the smartest and funniest person in the house, bar none. She immediately came up with, it should be, the skill is called shut. And it is just like, shut. Just pinch. And it is just the simple idea of shut the fuck up. And I wish I'd actually thought to find the image, but she talked about the image of the lady sitting there at a table with a golden retriever and just the hand clamped around the mouth, stopping the dog from barking. And that should be it. That should be the image for it. But she did have a really great point in that. It should be that for RPGs, we have done hundreds upon thousands of choices. We have history. We have particular skills, particular languages, particular archaeology traits. So all of these things, we've always gone such broad and amazing options for how to build your character, except we haven't done an option that allows you to pull back on your character. Instead of growing them in richness, instead create them as a reflection of self, which is to disengage sometimes. Some people, maybe somebody wants to roleplay a socially awkward or a socially anxious or a socially aggressive person where they like, why say 10 words when 5 words will do? Why listen to somebody prattle on about something? Just be like, you need that bear dead? Cool. 50 gold, back in a moment. Walk over there, kill the fucking bear, come back, and just hand the bear, oh my God, this has been killing this and that. And you've now, you've now restored the honor of my son who was killed by that bear, and be like, don't fucking care, give me the gold, I'm out. So that should be something coming up in RPGs. If somebody out there wants to do it, by all means, I would love to see it. So now with all of that talking out of the way, I'm going to jump into some more Wild Frost. So I am just going to jump over and let's do this. So there should be some audio. Yeah, it's just, there we go. Oh wow, it is impressively loud, that music. Can we actually? Yeah, let's just. Let's just bring that music down a little bit. As nice as it is, it's just... let, let's just leave it at that point. All right, so I've... Even after my efforts of managing to finish Slay the Spire, I'm still just working my way through Wild Frost, and it's proving to be a lot of fun, and the style of play that I've actually been finding success with is a lot different to what I thought I would play as. So continuing to find interesting things about this. Okay, so I've finished with these guys before, so bosses and mini-bosses will be upgraded with charms. Fuck. Some crowns will be cursed. Fuck. And Frenzy Bell. Starting items gain +1. Okay, so yeah, it then means for every starting item has that, but it won't apply to anything else. Hold on. Jelly's marble runs. Hello. How are you? Thank you, and I believe you're coming in on YouTube. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Just playing some Wild Frost, and I've just prattled on for about an hour and 25 minutes about video gaming news that you may or may not be interested in. But that's beside the point. Hope you're doing well. So with Wild Frost, as much I actually did finish. I did say earlier I did finally finish a run of this, and it was actually in this daily voyage version of the game, where it was just one of those really good runs where you have just the right equipment, the right build comes together, and it was mostly based off what they gave you here. While that's fun, I keep looking at it going, I kind of want to start from scratch and kind of work my way through it in one hit. So we're just going to keep going, and I may die many, many times, but I'm willing to just throw some time in it and have some fun and chat with anybody who's here. Okay, so we have deal 4 additional damage to damaged targets. It can be good. Apply +1 with aimless. So yeah, aimless does mean that they'll hit targets in the row, but it's any of them. So 2 damage with 1 snow twice every 4 turns. That's not bad. The spice is good though. Everybody likes a bit of spice. So we've got that for the snow people. Okay. We have gain +1 when an ally is killed. Ooh. I like that. Let us go with that. Every time one of our people gets killed, we do more damage. I'm okay with that. And little Gassy. Got to go with a puppy dog. So yeah, with everything, I'm just having a look here at a whole bunch of things. Just making sure as well that everything else is still running on what I'm doing. Okay. Yeah, everything still seems to be working quite well. That is fantastic. The fact that things are not falling apart is strange. And, oh no, Twitch decided to just fall over at random. Or at least it seemed to have. And now, as soon as I looked at it, it just went, oh my god, no, I'm here, I'm online. Probably just panic in and of itself. All right. So I don't have any great way that I play this. I honestly just, you know, throw in and just start hitting shit until it dies and just hope for the best. Boop. And let's kill that. And there we go. Excellent. It is working well. I've actually been noticing that, yeah, if we set everything down here and actually bring out some of these guys first, and then, yeah, have these boys come through, it helps so much more. Because I used to just try and push everything into trying to make sure that I had how would you put it? Like I always kept the refresh of the cards, the ringing of the bell for later. And I finally understood that, okay, it might actually be better to just bring out the cards, work out what's there, and oh, another one. Then oh, okay. Yes. Let's recall him, heal him, and then pull out the wave bell to bring in the enemies ahead of time instead of kind of getting myself caught by having everything just push me against a wall. Okay. We got 3. Yep. Let's knock this dude out. Look at this boss guy. You can't do shit to me. He's doing 1 damage. Nah, bruv. Actually, that has been one thing I've... on my lunch break for 5, any developer direct predictions. I have a prediction that... I honestly think the new game, the game from a studio that at a new location, a surprise location, I think it is going to be something like Forza Horizon 6, and it is going to be that Forza Horizon 6 is announced in Japan, from Japan, kind of just really pushing everything out to kind of give a really nice straight off the bat layout for everybody to kind of see. That's where my prediction would be. However, the other option I think that has a lot of potential is ZeniMax Online Studios. They have been working on that game since 2017, roughly. 2017, 2018, I think. And it's probably time for them to show off what they're doing. So I think that is where I think things are going to go. But I am by no means confident on that. I have not, like, even from friends and people I know, nobody has anything that they are saying or anything that they know about what is going on with Microsoft at the moment, which generally for myself, that is a great indication. When people are quiet on purpose, it's because they know something that you don't, but they want to see your reaction. They want to see the surprise and the joy of it. And when the only person who knows something is Jez, and he's just going, oh, the Cult of the Lamb charm. I did unlock this a while ago, and it's fantastic. I love it. I love that Cult of the Lamb has propagated into so many games. Yeah, when everybody's being quiet on purpose, and even the people who do know don't want to speak out of turn, that gives you a good indication to just go, look, this is big. It may not be big for everybody, and this is where the level setting has to kind of happen. I did see in a few Discord messages that people were like, oh, Jez always hypes up things and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, he's always applied just a level-headed approach, which is this is big and important for the people for whom it matters to. But that can't be everybody. Like, not everybody is going to be excited to the same degree as one another. Like, if they announce something on State of Decay 3, I'm going to be absolutely fucking ecstatic. I love the State of Decay games. It is actually, as much as I've gotten retro games just recently, like they're just down over there, and I'm trying to work out how to get one of the PCs here to be able to stream some retro stuff, I'm really tempted to go back and play State of Decay 1 and go through a full run on State of Decay 2, both the standard game and also the, I cannot remember what they called it. There was a State of Decay 2 story DLC, Homefront, and that was a continuation of the storyline of what happened in Trumbull Valley from State of Decay 1. And I would love to see that, but I know a lot of people are not going to look at State of Decay 3 with as much love or care that I do. It is all about what matters to the people who are kind of excited by those news and things. It's a tough one, because I honestly think it should always be that whatever you love, you love. Like, some games are going to get great attention and everyone's going to be absolutely ecstatic and excited by these things, but I would say my predictions personally are that I think there's definitely some stuff going on, but when I'm not hearing anything, that generally makes me more excited. Because if people and friends that I have are just going, nope, I'm not saying diddly squat, even if they do know, that's generally just a good indication to go, well, they're excited and they're happy. That's not a bad thing. That's a fantastic thing in my mind. So I'm hoping that this goblin dies. There he goes. I'm hoping that people just have good level expectations about what's going on here, because when it comes down to it, we could have the next 2 weeks be just full of every possible what would you call it? Hold on. Insider. Not you, Randall Thor 19. If he's watching, he is not a insider. I still think Rand is just somebody who knows people. But the insiders will start filling the lack of things said will be filled now with people just trying to make something out of nothing, something out of everything. And that can just ultimately drag everybody down to a rough degree. When you're trying to fill the air with whatever you can, like a scattershot approach is fine, but honestly, why? If you don't know, don't say anything and just so, total saying. So you're not saying that. So you're saying there isn't going to be a Banjo remake and an FF7 remake Shadow Drop. I would love either of those two things. Absolutely. Here's actually a secret shame of mine. I've played Banjo Kazooie, but I have never played Final Fantasy VII. Not on the PlayStation, not on the PC, haven't played the remake, none of them. Because I didn't have a PlayStation growing up. When everybody else in like 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999, while all of you guys were playing on PlayStations and playing all of these games, I had a Sega Mega Drive. Like, my family wasn't by any means poor, but we weren't rich. And a PlayStation in Australia cost $699 in 1997. So consider that I bought this Series X down here for $799. That's only $100 difference between buying a PlayStation when it came out. That gives you an idea just how fucking expensive these goddamn things are here in Australia. But I've never played Final Fantasy VII because I never got a PlayStation until I think 2004, 2005 when I started collecting a lot of stuff again. And then even then, over the years, I had to get rid of some of that stuff and then finally started collecting again once Beck and I were able to afford a home and you know, have somewhere which wasn't rented, which is just a nice point. I would be very happy with the Banjo remake because I know a lot of people who would absolutely love it. Like, obviously, Paris Lily out there is the #1 man for saying that there needs to be Banjo. And I'm always on for people to get the games that matter to them and to have the things that they love. Turtle saying, I think it's still my favorite Final Fantasy. Don't know how it holds up if you were to play it for the first time now. Actually, on that, Turtles, I would be interested to ask, while Final Fantasy VII probably does not hold up, how would you say Final Fantasy VII Remake holds up as a game now? With, like, taking away, like, while I haven't played Final Fantasy VII, I know all of the story and the elements that make up the Final Fantasy VII game. I understand all of the locations and story elements and everything. Like, I cannot be a gamer who's almost 40 and not have heard friends of mine at high school fucking gosh and tell me every single day the things that they did in Final Fantasy VII. Actually, that is one of the things that I miss about not just school, but being able to kind of chat on games every day with the people you go to school with, or whenever everybody's kind of playing through different games. We don't have the ability to kind of be walked through a blow by blow of playing through a game. I remember hearing friends of mine talk about, I would say it would be okay with it until the last half hour and then it gets confusing. It's very accessible until the end. Okay. Because I have actually considered getting Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know it's on PC. I know it's on Steam, and we've got the 4090 right there. Like, we can just blow it out to 4K and absolutely rip it up. And I know that PC performance wasn't that great, but we could just brute force it here. think that might be an interesting one to go into. And I know that Rebirth is coming out for PC, I think in a month or two's time from memory. So it'd be interesting. I don't know whether that's one that I'd actually, hold off. Gameplay wise, I have seen that it is very, very different. I've watched I watched a friend play bits and pieces of Final Fantasy VII, and the old classic Final Fantasy style turn-based combat. I get that. Replaying the original or the remake trilogy, you'd choose the remake trilogy. Okay. Then that's surprising. A lot of friends, when I've asked them after they played the remake trilogy, they've been like, "Oh, I really like the classics," and it's like, I can respect that. Like I still have characters that I've kept playing for Phantasy Star Online. Like, and the service for that I haven't been online for years. Even better. We're collecting more charms. That is my way of trying to get through this game. Load every card up with charms so that somebody attacks and it does 100 different things. Okay, so I would be, yes, very interested. I would love to see Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth and Banjo-Kazooie be the surprise titles. Turtle's also saying the original is special, but the remake delves deeper into the themes and story elements. I think that's also one of the things that one of the directors. 7 was made in 10 months, so some of it can seem rushed. That's surprising. Do you mean 7 as in 7 the original, or as in 7 remake? Because I thought they spent a lot longer on it than 10 months. If they did that, then I'm very impressed. But actually, considering games back around then, in especially during the 90s, they tended to, work very kind of in a very loose structure where it was, here's a story element, and you would just someone would just be programming all of your story elements, and then it would just be a combat designer going, this enemy scaled at this level, and it would just auto generate and run in the system. Oh yeah, surprisingly, actually, while I never played Final Fantasy VII, I remember a friend of mine had a PlayStation, and I think, you know how you do it with your mates. You'd like, oh yeah, I've got this. You want to play these games, and you'd swap consoles for a weekend or something. A friend of mine was actually going away up north for a period of, I think he was going up there for a couple of weeks over Christmas. And obviously he was like, I'm not going to be taking my PlayStation with me to far north Queensland. So he very kindly lent me his PlayStation. And back then, of course, as everybody did, his was a chipped PlayStation. So he just had, big CD wallet worth of games and everything. And my sister and I played video games all throughout our years growing up. My sister actually played through Final Fantasy VIII, and that was the game that really got her. And I remember watching her play through Final Fantasy VIII, and that was the first time that she'd ever played a turn-based role-playing game. It was surprising to see how into it she got, because she knew nothing of it. It was more a case of, she was like, I'm just gonna, play this, because I wasn't playing on the PlayStation. I was reading or watching something. So she just, oh yeah, I'll give this a shot, and was kind of going through games. And then that opening fight, I believe, between Squall and whoever the fuck it was, uh, and where he gets the scar from the gunblade battle. All of those things is what caught her attention, and then it just absolutely. Oh, you played that recently? Yeah. It it's very weird those moments where you see somebody play a style of game for the first time, and yeah, I like just thinking about it. Yeah, I never I hadn't thought about that in years, but yeah, my sister Tegan played through that, uh, and it was like a period of like a week and a half, and she got really fucking far in it. I think almost to I think almost to trying to remember. It was close to the end. It wasn't all the way to the end, but it was close. I just cannot for the life of me remember. There's so much about it that I've forgotten, which is really weird. That yeah, I just remember the various little bits and pieces about how it was all magic. I've probably forgotten more about that game than I've honestly remembered. I'm gonna stop trying to remember things about Final Fantasy games. But even with that, uh, I would say though, even for myself, I do wonder whether if it's not Final Fantasy VII Remake, then I would imagine Final Fantasy 16. Because while a lot of people said that there are issues with 16, the side quests and everything else weren't really done well, some of the things that people did point out that the game looks beautiful. It once they kind of locked in and really fixed some of the frame rate issues and everything else, people were talking about the main story for the game being quite good. The combat being a bit, yeah, but I think, as a few people have pointed out, if it's not turn-based to a degree, it doesn't feel like it's Final Fantasy, and they've never really kind of stuck with one system. They've always tried to iterate and change, and that's great, but you should always have something that feels familiar, or an option that can allow that familiar. Um, but Ben Starr's performance as Clive in 16 is heralded as really fantastic, which I love Ben Starr. I want to see him do more, be everywhere. That man is just comedy gold. um, I am just gonna put that there. Also remembering, like, oh, I should probably be playing this as well, or YouTube's gonna slap me. Oh, it's not like Twitch would really do much. Holy shit, there's somebody watching on Twitch. Fair enough. um, but with I think there's also the element of potentially 16. I think is going to 16 is one of those ones where I think there's a likelihood that they're going to push that first. Not that I think that there is a it's not you. No, that's all right. Whoever is on Twitch, g'day. Um, uh, but yeah, for 16, I think that there's more likely a chance of that coming through than 7, because it still strikes me that to any degree there is more than likely the way of the Sony deals and everything else. There's something that just kind of strikes me that yeah, I don't see Sony having a deal that is restrictive or places those sorts of elements, because at the same time I understand that it makes for a great story. And yeah, Sony is one of those groups that would definitely make that sort of deal. If they had the opportunity, they would. And I absolutely get it and respect it. It is business. However, once contract terms are up, or that you're not delivering on your side of the deal, those contracts get torn up because there's generally a breach point that makes people go, well, it's going to cost us more to keep this thing going than it is to just abandon it and go, oh, well, who cares? So for that, if there was a certain amount of money per se that was given to Square Enix to state, oh, we want this game and we are going to pay for all 3 of these. Oh, okay. Crowns are good. Oh, yeah. You are absolutely right, Turtles. On both those points, if Sony were to try to keep Square locked in, it would worsen their relationship, because Square they've had, from the previous CEO, they had years of issues, honestly. They just had years and years of underperformance, not because their games were bad, but because they were allowing a platform to sell them on the fact of your biggest sales, your biggest customer base, which is your home base. We're the biggest here in Japan. You need to stay with us. Even foregoing Nintendo. However, Square is so much bigger outside of just Japan or Asia itself, because Square games are seen as titles that transcend the language barriers. Even with good translation, there's a love and a care, because those games and the themes generally work even through language, even through language issues. And that's an important aspect. So while I do not agree that there is a deal still ongoing between Sony and Square, because a little bit inside baseball, but if you have a deal when it comes to a certain product being sold, or ongoing efforts for funding and everything else, generally Sony wouldn't have paid X amount of $1 million to Square to help with development. Square would have paid for the development themselves, but to offset that development, they would have gotten, say, marketing, additional marketing money, but also the deal would be, we, Sony, guarantee that you are going to sell X amount of million copies of this game on our platform as a baseline. So say they said, you are going to sell a minimum of 8 million copies of each Final Fantasy game. So you are doing 3 Final Fantasy 7 games. We guarantee that you're going to sell, let's just say 10 million as a flat number. You are going to sell 10 million copies of each of these games. So we are guaranteeing you 30 million copies as a baseline at a minimum. If you don't sell 10 million of each of them, then we will pay for the difference. Say you only sell 3 million of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, we will then pay the difference to that 10 million mark. But generally, if you don't hit those points, Sony can go, all right, to keep the deal active, we can pay that difference and the deal still continues. So we still have exclusivity. But if you're in breach and you start negotiating going, oh, 7 million copies, Jesus, that's a lot of money. We weren't really expecting this much. There's generally what you call, like backdoor outs or outs in a deal, which allow you to go, we're breaking the deal because this is not financially viable for us, or that these terms do not work to our benefit as much as we initially anticipated. Square have had larger and larger issues when it comes to things like Nier Automata. They didn't spend hundreds of millions of dollars on that game. They just worked with Yoko Taro, and last update on FF7R was 4, and it just highlights the ceiling for the games. Everyone expected more than that. Last update on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was 4 million. Jesus, I didn't hear that. 4 million is definitely a whole lot lower than what I was expecting. I was honestly expecting that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth would probably get to about 5, 6, honestly. But considering Rebirth has almost been out for a year now, yeah, that doesn't really track well for numbers. Was 7. Final Fantasy 7. Okay, so is that Rebirth or Remake? It's probably Remake. The reason I brought up like the deals, the kind of association deals, is that I've seen them before, not in video games, but in other terms, other deals and bits and pieces. And with those deals generally, it has been that, okay, so that was for Remake. Thank you, Turtles. When it's come to those deals in the past, I have seen software publishing and funding deals in other realms which have said that, yeah, if we don't sell enough of these copies, we are on the hook. We are guaranteeing you X amount of sales, and that if you don't hit that amount of sales, then we cover the difference, because it's also kind of offset development cost, and there's also marketing cost that, like, I think everybody would remember that when Final Fantasy VII Remake was coming out, there were ads everywhere. Like, they pushed big, and that was obviously part of the deal for Square to be on board, that Sony would put their money where their mouth is and push it everywhere. But here's a kind of side thing that made me bring up maybe there's a certain amount of copies that need to be sold. Oh, that is really fucking warm. Game plus one when a hit or an ally is hit. Ooh. I like. Let's have that. When those sorts of deals have happened in the past, generally what you want to do is you don't want to you don't want to have those issues come up where you are not selling enough copies. So trying to work out a way where it's not, this isn't conspiratorial. This is just, I've seen this happen in a particular instance with a form of software, to be able to get around the terms of a negotiated deal that was made to avoid being in breach and then having to pay for copies of something that weren't actually sold. because if that deal kicks in, you need to sell 10 million copies, but you've only sold 6, so you're on the hook for 4 million copies. Unless you've got it signed into the deal, though, that 4 million copies, you're not getting keys for 4 million copies. You are just having to pay for the the money across for 4 million copies of that game selling, and you're on the hook for it. So you're paying their 70% of each of those game sales. The conspiratorial element is not what I'm wanting to highlight, but to go, what happened once Final Fantasy VII Remake came out? A lot of people, if you remember back, Final Fantasy VII Remake was actually offered inside of PlayStation Plus. I believe it was part of the PSN network games. And sorry, I just had my screen kind of fall over. Just making sure this is running. So I'm just going to transition this. And nope, it seems nearly everything has fallen over. Yes, it has. All right. I am just changing some of these things out and hopefully rebooting it and having everything work. Please, for the love of God. Okay. Yes, and it seems it is. All right, so let's change to this and swap. It seems like, let's change that out and swap it back in. Okay. Things seem to be working. Like everything on the screen just went and it kind of gave me a bit of a panic there, but it seems to be working all right. And if it isn't, then I'm just going to have a stream that is in archive that is not working. Could be worse. So ultimately, you had Final Fantasy VII Remake go into PlayStation Plus. I think. Hold on. Let's actually do some investigative Googling here and see, because I think it might have been. Let's try this. Okay. Final Fantasy VII Remake PSN, because it was a PlayStation 4 version that was added into PSN, and it was offered as one of those games. It's not showing up for it, which is annoying because I know it was a piece of news. Yes, the Resident Evil 8 exclusivity deal did leak, and that is possibly one of the best reference points to be able to get an idea about how the platforms look at exclusivity, and especially Sony. Those deals, I have not seen many of them in recent years. I've seen some of them well back in the past, but some of those deals are in that manner. The only thing that I really think tends to show or give an idea about how the platforms look at exclusivity now and what sort of terms they're trying to attach to things is that Sony's deal specifically stated that once the exclusivity finished, that PlayStation still held a right of first refusal for that game to be placed into any subscription service. So if Capcom got past the exclusivity for Resident Evil Village, then went into, and then Xbox hit them up and went, hey, we want to put this into Game Pass. They get a deal, or they get an offer. PlayStation has a right of first refusal to say, we want that deal first. You have to offer it to us first. So they have to go and do that to maintain this contract and this deal. Then after PlayStation says no and goes, yeah, we're not going to put it in the PlayStation Plus or any of their equivalent services, then they could go to another service. However, that other service, once they provide a final number, Sony has the right of final refusal, which is the platform has to give Sony a number that it has to beat. And Sony has the right for up to 90 days. Now, 3 months. I do not know many companies that would have written into or agree to contracts where another company has 90 days to fuck with you and go, no, you're not allowed to take this deal because we're still deciding. And they can take up to 90 days to go, yeah, nah, we don't want that. You can go, like, you're fine. Go make this deal. Because 3 months, depending on when your exclusivity deal, say it's only a couple of months after the game has come out, maybe there's a resurgence for the game where you wanted to hit a subscription service because you might have another title in the series or an update or another remake or this coming out. So you want to coincide those things. But then the control goes to the other platform. That's the thing that's actually thrown probably the most interesting wrench into a lot of the exclusivity discussions. But it does... It is not by any means unique. It is just very strange to see those sorts of terms come back. Because the last time I heard of terms being that aggressive was actually back in the PlayStation 2 era. And we'll talk about that in a moment. Fantasy Rebirth. I think it was PSN Plus games. Let's have a look in news. January 2020. PlayStation Pluses. Final Fantasy VII Reunion. Okay. Final Fantasy spin-off. Rebirth of... It's weird because I know that Remake was released and put onto PlayStation Plus. It is just strange that I cannot see advanced search. I'm trying to sorted by date and recent. No, we need something which is back in from 2019 to 2021. 2021, not 2020. 21. Okay, so sorry, this is weird. I'm trying to find all of these things. Okay, Final Fantasy VII Remake will be a PlayStation Plus freebie with a catch. So 5 games in March of 2021 were PS4, PS5, and PSVR titles. Final Fantasy VII Remake headlines the March lineup. At State of Play, Sony showed off the PS5 version of the game, which will have upgraded graphics, higher frame rates, other improvements in a DLC episode. But here's the truth. If you claim Final Fantasy VII Remake through PS Plus, you will not get the free upgrade. You will still need to buy the current game for the upgrade or pay directly for the PlayStation 5 game, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. So when did Final Fantasy VII Remake release date? 10th of April 2020. So April 10, 2020, March 2021, a year after the game came out. But you then put the game into PlayStation Plus. So that that kind of like throws a rather large and very strange ball of wax into the entire situation, because if you think about it, why would a PlayStation Plus deal like that generally means that you are paying for... Sorry. You are paying for that game in advance and going, we will do X amount of copies with all of these assurances, all basically to help get this game out there. And a year after the game has come out is such a very strange way to have had things occur, because ultimately, would you really think that a game needs to have all of those problems occur that quickly after a release? For PS exclusives to enter PS Plus a year after, yes, but Final Fantasy VII Remake was the first one to really do that, because PlayStation Plus, as a service to a degree, had... I definitely think, like Turtles has brought up that they were trying to grow the service, which is very much true. However, when you're putting a full price game there, you have to make deals with your publisher or the developer to be able to make sure that they get what is considered a reasonable market rate for the titles that they're releasing out there. And that can be a very, very tough thing to pull together, because you're then on the hook for very large amounts of money, because ultimately you have to pay for you have to pay a very decent chunk of cash for it all to come through, because Square Enix isn't going to go, well, no, you can give us like $20 a copy of a game, because they would go, no, like this game is full price, like you can pay full goddamn price, thank you very much. Like we like our game has just come out, it is full price at a retailer. Why should we be getting any less of an amount of money for something that we've created, which is our title? And that can be a See, it is one of those parts where, for growing the service, it was such a massive cost. Oh, and I think we're actually doing a quite good build here, thank God. Everybody's nutted up. To have those to have that sort of money laid out in that manner makes me question and go, was this deal done where perhaps they were expecting, much like I think COVID could have potentially had a lot to do with it. I think also COVID did ultimately create a large bolstering to what people thought was going to happen with video games out there, because there was such a big spend that was occurring every single week. Everybody was going, holy shit, people are buying more and more games because, what else could we do? Like, for a lot of people, you're working from home. I was outside having to do stuff. But people just had, to a degree, I don't wish to bring it up as something to seem derogatory about it, but people had, to a degree, some free money to burn, and there's just one of those elements where you kind of look at it and go, apologies. My lovely wife is going to sleep, so leaving me to continue prattling on until the early hours of the morning. COVID, I think, had some issues to do with it, but I would say probably COVID worked to the advantage of PlayStation probably doing that big spend to put Final Fantasy VII Remake into that service, as it did help grow the service. And if people are then looking at it going, oh shit, I can get this game for free by not just buying a PlayStation or using it, but signing up to this service. And here's the secret for subscriptions. For every person who thinks about a subscription and goes, oh yes, I'm signing up for this and I think this is a great thing and I pay attention to these things. There's probably 5 people who are going to forget that they subscribe to this service, have stopped using it, and have paid for maybe 2 or 3 months where they have not used it. And they haven't downloaded anything, they haven't done anything, and that is free money. To a degree, it doesn't matter because it's money that ultimately has been spent. It's been allocated and somebody's got it. They've provided a service. Just because you haven't used the service doesn't mean that they haven't provided it. Sorry, that's a very weird way of looking at it. But for all of those subscription services, COVID, I think, probably did have something to do with it. You're probably dead on the money there, Turtles, because why not? And I think COVID actually helped build out so much of the current structure of how people look at everything and go, oh, this, X service is doing amazing, or how a lot of people see the growth of particular markets is that COVID did kind of bolster things to a point because people just needed to disengage, to consume, to just have something to do, which wasn't to be panicked, to be worried. And I think many of us can kind of honestly say that, yeah, there was a lot going on that made you kind of stop and go, Jesus fucking Christ, could we not? And yeah, I see it's a tough one because the industries across the world are right now all still resetting to a degree of what needs to, or what has happened out there, and that reset is going to continue still for some time. And to a large degree, I understand a lot of people look at it and go, oh, you know, it's terrible businesses and it's corporate greed and blah blah blah. Nobody, nobody. Well, no, sorry, that's probably too direct to say. I am yet to meet any person who works in any level of a business who enjoys firing people or having to make that decision. It doesn't happen because nobody likes doing it. And when that sort of stuff happens, they're the people going, oh, for the love of God. They're going home and going, holy shit, I have this sitting over my head for the next X amount of time. Coming off lunch break. Thank you very much, Turtles. Oh, no! You cursed me. My leader is dead. As soon as you run away, I fail. No, it's all right. Thank you very much, Turtles. I appreciate that. And hopefully you have a great rest of the day. I might just continue streaming and doing bits and pieces here. We're going to have to go back to town. So, yeah, I appreciate it, Turtles. Again, have a great night. Have a great day. I think it's just after... Yeah, it should be just after midday for you, I think. English time zones, who knows? So, yeah, when it comes down to it, I think COVID, ultimately, there's still a reset that's occurring for larger businesses, especially the tech sector, because it was one of those sectors that had a great roll through. Working from home was a capability that the tech sector and a lot of IT-based businesses and IT serviced industries were able to do very easily, which, you know, really helps things continue on. But that sort of reset is going to continue, I think, also because there's just a reality of we end up having to hire a lot of people into those realms to support. But then as we get better systems built with those people, then we can start bringing down the amount of people who need to service or maintain those things. And it's a churn that occurs, and it sucks. My own industry has had those sorts of churns where, you know, automation comes in and fantastic sheet metal workers that I've guys who are on the tools who can make incredible things on a flat bench with a piece of steel. They don't have the work for them anymore. And right now, my industry, especially here in Australia, we spent almost a year and a half trying to find somebody experienced to take up into that role. And even people who were my age and a little bit younger had no bench work skills, had no manual fabrication skills because it isn't being taught. And that's a tough thing. The IT industry is still generally teaching the same skills and the same elements to the same people. They're all building off a baseline skill. But the artists, the creatives, the designers and everything else, that's, you know, that's where I think a lot of skills are now going towards. But as it comes to some sides of IT, that's a tough needle to thread. But regardless of that, holy crap, I've actually been going for about 2.5 hours here. This has actually been the longest stream I've managed, which is kind of nice. I hadn't realized that's the sort of time that we've been going for. that's kind of nice. I think that might be it for today. It's it's been nice. We've had a bit of news. Had a somewhat decent run in Wild Frost, and managed to successfully stream to Twitch as well, which is kind of cool. I will hopefully have a lot of these things working to a point where it will just be every 2 days. So at this point, thinking right now, it will stay as I mentioned earlier in the week. It's probably going to be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Australian times for doing streams. Although I am potentially going to change the stream times for these streams to either be earlier in the day, potentially that I wake up early and do this before work, or that I do this as soon as I get home from work, so that there's a little bit of a different balance to it. Because a lot of Australian streamers, if they're solid streamers, they do like 7-8 hours in a day. Fuck that. I've got a fucking goddamn day job. I'm not doing that. But potentially just changing it up. So we'll see what we go. If you've got a thought or opinion, pop it into the comments. Still yet to get any comments, but as soon as there is one there, I will jump on it like a rabid dog. So away from that, thank you very much for anybody who's joined in live, especially Turtles. I appreciate every time you come through, and you're great at kind of highlighting points and helping me find a train of thought to stay on. And for anybody else who's catching this on a VOD later, I appreciate it. Thank you. If you want to hit the like and subscribe stuff, cool. If not, no hassle for me. I'm still going to be doing this stuff, whether the likes and the algorithms like me or not. So appreciate it very much. Thank you very much to everyone who came through, and I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Catch you later.